And welcome, everybody, to the Wednesday edition of the Just Parlay Show here at the Max Wagers Network. I'm back. I'm your co-host, Scott Reichel. And joining me, of course, since this is a parlay show, it's going to be the parlay expert, Chris King. Chris, how's it going? Been a while. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm still here. I was here yesterday, unlike you, who decided that you'd rather fly in the middle of the day than, do work.
Damn planes. But in my defense, I did book the flights before I actually got the co-hosting job. So, I didn't completely miss you. I allegedly did not. Yeah.
Let's see the reservation.
Yeah. I'll have my people contact your people, and we'll figure it out.
Other than that, it's another day. Of course, trade deadline was yesterday. We saw a lot of guys move. We saw some guys that we thought might move that didn't. Of course, everybody wants to talk about Juan Soto, and, Jim talked about it at length yesterday. What do you make of the Padres getting Juan Soto and Josh Bell? Does it make them the favorite in the National League? Do they have the pitching to get past a team like the Dodgers?
So my question for you, can you really be the favorite in the National League when you're probably going to be a wild card team?
I don't think so. And everybody, you saw how quickly the books moved. They moved San Diego from plus 2,000 to plus 800 to win the series. And
it moved on upside, but at the same point, they're not going to catch the Dodgers for first place.
No, and we saw yesterday they started who was it? Race Neer in the second game of the doubleheader. Not exactly the kind of guy you want to have throwing games in August and September that means something. Are you concerned that A.J. Preller didn't go out and get another arm as opposed to getting more bats?
You can kind of argue that the Padres are the NL version of the Yankees this year because you look at the lineup and it's very good. You look at the top part of the rotation, it's pretty good. We know Cole's getting rocked right now, but the point is he's still the number one starter. And then you look at the back end of the rotation and you think to yourself, you really couldn't have gotten another arm? I feel like that's kind of the similarity between the Padres and the Yankees. The lineup on paper is really good. The pitching staff, Now, the difference that the Yankees bullpen throughout the entire season has been better than San Diego. But, of course, San Diego ended up getting Hader now. So they're kind of, I don't want to say fixed, but they improved it.
Hey, he got a win yesterday.
I was going to say, would you agree it's kind of similar because both teams, you kind of look at the rotation and feel like they forgot something?
Yeah, I mean, you look at, like you said, Musgrove started out really good. He's kind of tapered off.
Yeah.
Darvish pitches well at Petco, but he doesn't necessarily pitch well on the road. Clevenger's still trying to figure out what he is because, he was good 2 or 3 years ago in Cleveland. But
I think he's just happy that he's healthy right now, to be honest.
True. But then you look at the back of the rotation, Gore was hurt and then he's traded, so he's gone. So now what? Are you going to plug Nick Martinez in there? Are you going to plug Neer in there? And then, of course, you've got Mr. I'm a starter in name only in Blake Snell, who doesn't go very long in games. He's basically a glorified opener at this point. Do you want to see either one of those guys, any of that last trio of guys, Martinez, Neer, and Snell, pitching in a playoff game? In a game 4 or something like that, when you're facing, whoever the Dodgers roll out there, be it Kershaw or Urias or, whoever else that comes up in that spot? Or do you want to face Atlanta with their starters when you've got, who's probably their 4 guy, Strider right now?
Strider has to be at 13 strikeouts last night. Strider's unbelievable. As I don't know if you fully are ready for him to get a playoff, I'd say dominant performance, but he's definitely worthy of being in your rotation for a playoff series. For Snell, he has not been that good this year. He's been okay lately, so I'll give him that. I think I'm more okay with Snell than the other guys that the Padres have because at least Snell has had some big playoff games before. And worst case scenario, you can hope that he embraces like a big game James Shields role where he's awful in the regular season, but he somehow turns out to be mediocre in the playoffs. You know what I mean?
Right.
But maybe you have that going for you. But for the other guys, no. It feels like San Diego and really the Yankees as well. I don't know if they're praying for waivers to happen and they're just relying on some guy to get cut and they can maybe make a move. But it does seem like both teams kind of need a starting pitcher and they're going to just go in with, 2 or 2.5 competent starters and you just hope to roll it over.
I mean, you talk about guys that cleared waivers. Tampa Bay signed Chase Anderson yesterday. Talk about guys that haven't really, done anything in recent years.
Just saying the trade deadline passed, so waivers might be your only hope at this point.
That's true. I mean, but you look, Tampa Bay went out and got a guy who in 2020 was 1-2 with an ERA of 7.22, and last year he pitched in 14 games, started 9 for the Phillies, was 2-4. His earned run average was 6.75. These aren't the kind of guys you want to have if you're trying to get into the postseason. I don't see what kind of a contribution they're going to expect out of him at this point. I mean, he's basically turned into Keuchel.
Pretty much. It's a last-ditch, please save us type of approach. But I'm going to ask you that since we're talking about the future odds and you mentioned San Diego at 9-1, I can understand the pricing. Do I think they should be 9-1? I would say no. I think they should be closer to like 11-1 in my opinion, just because you're going to be a road team in every series you play in. And you can argue it's baseball, home field doesn't matter to the same degree as basketball or some of these other playoff formats. But the rotation is a serious question mark. And I don't feel great getting behind a wild card team, especially if they're going to be throwing out some questionable options in the back end of series and potentially elimination games. You might be using Snell. But when you want to talk about Cinderella runs, the Nationals, when they won, still had Scherzer, they still had Strasburg, they had pretty decent Corbin at that point. You had actual elite starters, or two of them, that could win you any game.
Right.
I don't think San Diego has that because even the elite starters, Musgrove's been shaky lately, and Darvish has been only good at home, and that's a problem because Darvish will be either a Game 1 or a Game 2 starter, which is guaranteed to be on the road.
Right.
So I think you got a big problem.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think they should be 8 or 9-1. I had them pegged at about 12-1.
Yeah, I said 11, close enough.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that, sure, they've got a good lineup on paper, but there's two key words in that sentence, and they're the last two, on paper. You don't know if what Tatis is going to do when he comes back. He hasn't played all season. Machado, he's been injury prone in his career.
I'm going to watch all their games. I mean, they're one of the most fun rosters I've ever seen, but it's going to be an issue when you have to wonder also about Tatis's health. You know, just because he's coming back does not change the fact he's been injury prone his entire career.
Right.
Like, there's no guarantee he's going to stay healthy, and we know Tatis is not afraid to tag up on pop-ups from second base and to dive around like a lunatic. It wouldn't surprise me if he gets hurt again. Of course, I'm hoping that doesn't happen. But on paper, is that not one of the best lineups you've seen in, like, a long time?
Oh, yeah, for sure. But that's the big thing. It's on paper.
Yeah.
For everybody talking about how great Soto is hitting right now, you got to remember, in June, he hit $195.
Yeah, his average is not great. His on-base percentage is Bonds level, but, that involves a bunch of walks.
Yeah, a bunch of walks because are you going to pitch to Soto or are you going to pitch to anybody else in Washington's lineup?
Well, we can agree, though, the biggest loser yesterday in the trade deadline was Luke Voit.
True.
So he got screwed over by Hosmer. I agree with Hosmer for the record. I think Hosmer was 100% in his right. And I think that if San Diego boos Hosmer, there's no reason to because you got Soto anyway. So it kind of worked itself out. Now, do the Padres fans like Luke Voit? I would say kinda. I mean, he's batting like .220. I mean, I know Hosmer's had a terrible year, but what's the point of negotiating a no-trade clause in your contract if they want to ship you to one of the teams that you don't want to go to and you don't use it? Like, why are we blaming Hosmer here? You should blame San Diego for trying to quietly ship a guy with a no-trade clause.
Well, I mean, we saw the same thing in hockey. Remember, Evgeny Dadonov, Vegas was trying to deal him to Anaheim, and he was on the no-trade list, or Anaheim was on their no-trade list when he came over in a deal to Vegas. So, I mean, he put up a fight, and of course,
he won.
He won, and of course, now he's not in Vegas anymore anyway, but he got to go somewhere else as opposed to going to play for the Ducks. I mean,
listen,
you can't fault Hosmer.
I don't want to be traded to the Nationals. Okay, well, take that under consideration. We traded you to the Nationals. Like, what did you think was going to happen? Like, I'm not going to blame Hosmer for it. Hosmer has a choice of either getting paid a bunch of money for a playoff team or getting paid a bunch of money to be miserable on a bottom 2 team in the league.
Right.
Because once you trade Soto, you're going to be a bottom 2 team in the league because they're already bottom 5.
Yep.
So am I going to criticize Hosmer? No. I'm going to criticize the front office for at least not asking Hosmer before you negotiated the trade if he was open to it.
True.
But I mean, that's kind of my takeaway. But Voit,
anybody surprised you that didn't get traded?
I can think of a couple of people. The Cubs one surprised me to some degree, but not as much as people think, because they did the same thing with. I'm trying to remember. It wasn't Brian because I actually shipped him off in the end. But last year there were rumors about Baez and rumors about some other options, and they ended up shipping Baez off to the Mets last minute. So it did seem like that was going to be the case. I don't know. It depends if you think the Cubs have any leverage. Like, do you think they could potentially ship them off during the offseason? Do you think that there's a sign and trade possibility, or are you just disappointed they didn't trade anybody?
Well, Contreras, I think it boiled down to after Houston got Vasquez, they didn't have as much leverage. I was surprised Seattle didn't go after him.
Yeah, there wasn't really a market for catchers.
Right. Well, the Mets were looking at it, but know. But other than that, he might sign an extension. He's a free agent after the season. Hap, they still had another year of team control under, so I'm not as surprised that they didn't deal him, because you don't want to deal somebody with term if you're not going to get anything worthwhile value back. So I think that was a sound move. I would have liked to see Contreras go to a contender, but like you said, there wasn't as big of a market on catchers as there were on relievers, and we've seen plenty of mediocre relievers get traded this week. And then you saw Syndergaard get traded.
Yeah. Which is...
not sure what to make of that one.
I'm going to say whenever the Phillies are facing off against the Mets or any leadoff hitter, I'm going to blindly bet the stolen base when Syndergaard's pitching. I mean, that's kind of how I'm going to approach it. But I was going to talk for a second about one of the teams that, in my opinion, is the easiest loser of the deadline. And it's ironic because they're the only team that didn't do anything. They have not done anything in several years. The team sucks. They're content with being below average and hoping fans show up at the stadium.
Are we talking about the Royals?
I'm talking about the Colorado Rockies.
Oh.
And I gotta talk about them because we saw the same exact thing last year. And there were rumors about trading Story. There were rumors about trading Marquez. And what did they do? Absolutely nothing. They let Story walk for free in free agency, and he went to the Red Sox, of course. This year, Cron's having basically a career year.
Yep.
Blackman is still on the team. You've been rumored to trade him for 5 years. He's still there. Marquez is still there. Even Chad Kuhl's been decent, and you were willing to do nothing. You kept your entire roster. You made 0 moves, and you're tied for last place in your division.
Yeah, really? And you're right about Cron. 22 homers, 72 RBIs.
How is he not the perfect flip candidate?
You would have thought they would have moved him, but this is Colorado, and nobody has ever accused them of being the best run franchise. They could have flipped Grichuk too. He's got 10 homers and 53 runs batted in. You can't tell me that there wasn't a team out there that wanted a bat that didn't call Colorado.
Yeah, but I just found the whole thing absurd. Colorado's fans hate the ownership, and for good reason. Besides having to pay $50 million to get rid of Arenado in that Cardinals trade, there's a lot of questionable moves the Rockies have made in the past couple of years.
Well, look at the Bryant deal.
I was going to say the front office can't be this clueless. Like, your team sucks. You have to start getting younger prospects. Like, what are we doing?
Apparently nothing.
Yeah, so there you go. But they were my biggest loser for a team. The biggest loser for a player has to be Luke Voit, who wasn't supposed to get traded, and he ended up in the Nationals. So,
yeah, you look at there's nobody with more than 6 wins in Colorado.
Yeah, and for good reason, because they're not very good. But anyway, you have anything else you want to talk about for yesterday? I know there was also a passing in baseball. Vin Scully passed away at the age of 94. Probably the greatest baseball broadcaster of all time.
Oh, yeah. He was an institution.
I was going to say he's an institution. A lot of his well-known moments were before I was born. And I have not listened to him that much when he was doing it because it was the West Coast. He was doing Dodger games, of course. I did hear him from time to time. I thought he was very good. I don't have any Vin Scully stories. I'm sure a lot of people do because he was broadcasting some big games for like 50-plus years.
60-plus years.
I was going to say 50, 60-plus years. Do you have any Vin Scully stories or anything you want to say about him? Because I recognize how good he was, but most of his big moments were before I was born, so I can't really do him justice.
Well, I mean, Scully was an institution in our house on Saturdays because he'd do the game of the week on NBC, and it would be him and Joe Garagiola and Tony Kubek. And, the best game I remember that he did, at least from my perspective, was what people know as the Sandberg game, where Ryan Sandberg homered off Bruce Sutter, who was, of course, an iconic closer, used to pitch for the Cubs, and then went to the Cardinals, of all friggin' places. But to be in the press box for 67 years
and to still be entertaining and on the ball after 67 years, like he was still sharp at the end.
Right. I mean, you won't see somebody like that again. Scully and you had guys like Ernie Harwell and Harry Callis and all those guys back in the 70s and 80s that were great commentators that stuck with their teams. Jack Brickhouse and Jack Buck, who probably still rolls over in his grave every time he listens to Joe Buck try and commentate. But yeah, I think baseball, everybody came up a little bit with a little bit of a loss with the passing of Scully.
Yeah.
And, obviously you reach out to the Dodgers organization and, of course, Scully's family, and we offer our condolences because there will never be another Vin Scully.
And I don't think anybody has anything bad to say about Scully, like, ever. I don't think there's really ever been a controversy with Scully, and he's been in the radio spotlight for 60-plus years.
Yeah, I mean, talk about he was there when Pee Wee Reese and Jackie Robinson were there. He was there when Koufax and Drysdale were there.
He witnessed basically the entire modern MLB history.
Yep. Steve Garvey in the 70s, and you had Fernando Mania and Oral Hershiser, and then you had Piazza. Yep.
So
yeah, he that was another great call of his, was the Gibson at bat.
Yeah,
off Dennis Eggersley.
Wanted to bring it up because he's the most famous baseball broadcaster of all time, and I felt like that was worth at least mentioning briefly. So anyway,
and of course, let's also not forget that Blue Collar U, the University of Buffalo team, won the TBT tournament yesterday, rolling to a win over, what was it, Americans for Autism?
I was going to say, yeah. I know autism was in the title, but Blue Collar won.
Yeah, nice to see those guys, that put UB basketball on the map.
They're hard workers. They're blue collar. I mean, come on.
But CJ Massenberg and Lamonte Bearden and all those guys, that put UB on the map when Bobby Hurley was there. Then when Hurley left, and then
I liked Massenberg. I thought he was good.
Then when they trounced Bobby Hurley in the tournament after he went to Arizona State.
Lost a competitive game to Kentucky after that, but I remember I had them making somewhat of a run the year after.
Yeah, they got seeded as a they got seeded as a 6.
They got smacked by Texas Tech, from what I remember. But I like that Buffalo team. I thought they were good. But either way, good for Buffalo. I forgot about the TBT, so that's officially over. Congrats to them on the extra milli. Do you have anything else you want to add from yesterday, or do you want to move on?
No, we can move on. I see that Big X is here, and Tim and Nathan talking about playing video poker again. Apparently he made a bunch of money, got a royal flush. Frank White said he's a San Diego fan now. Apparently he's bailed on the Royals, Steve always likes to talk about how he's the former Royal second baseman, Frank White. And Brandon Kuba said that as a Padres fan, they love how Voit yells fuck every time he strikes out.
Yeah, he did the same thing with the Yankees, but he says it a lot because he strikes out a lot.
And J.C. Stone said it was a pretty good Dana White night. Did you watch any of the fights last night?
A bunch of knockouts. People killed each other.
All right.
That was pretty fun.
And let's not forget our housekeeping stuff. Scott, why don't you tell everybody about BetMGM?
Yep. So, of course, we got to talk about the company that keeps the lights on. We got a sponsor, and it's BetMGM, and they have a great deal for first-time users of their app or website. Get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. All the information is in the show box. Check the age limits, and as always, bet responsibly. But since we got that out of the way, time to transition. What do you like for today's baseball card? Even though about half the card
what's left
started,
of it?
I was going to say, even though half the card already started, but what do you like for the games that have not had first pitch yet.
Yeah, like we said, not a whole lot left to talk about because 8 of the games have already gone underway, making things a little bit more difficult for me. Rachel doesn't care. Well, look at this. We've talked about this, the first 2 games of this series. We talked about the Dodgers being better than the Giants. Guess what? That manifested itself.
It did.
Now we're going to see, we saw Logan Webb get roughed up. We saw Alex Wood get roughed up. Now we're going to see Alex Cobb get roughed up. Scott, let me ask you first. Are you surprised that Cobb's still in the majors?
He's been okay over the last month or two, but I'm still not a big fan of his. He's always been a ground ball pitcher. That was the case that he, came up with for the Rays when he was originally coming out. But he's been mediocre. I'd call him a serviceable number, 4?
Maybe.
Is that basically what he is?
4 or 5?
You can argue that Urias would be like a number 2 starter on like any rotation. Like he's very solid. But the Dodgers have owned this team. I mean, there's no real way to put it. They've played 5 times since the All-Star break, and the Giants are 0 for. So
6 now, isn't it?
6, sorry. So I'll take the Dodgers because the Giants just can't beat this team. And I still think the Giants should have traded or sold at the deadline. They did not. It seems like they're content with trying to go down with the ship, and I think they're going down with the ship. So I'm going to go with the Dodgers.
Yeah, you look at Urias, like you said, he lost to the Giants on June 12th in a game where he threw 6 innings, gave 2 runs, and struck out 10.
I don't think he's lost since, right?
Yeah, that dropped him to 3-6. Since then, he's 7-0.
Yeah.
And the one start that he got a no decision in was the one where I blindly picked it as my pick of the day, and he got roughed up in the first inning. He only threw 2 against the Cubs, but they came back to win 11-9.
Yeah.
He's coming off, you look at his last 3 starts, he's pitched 20 innings. He's given up 3 runs on 11 hits, walked 2, and struck out 17. And that includes a win over the Giants in that first series coming out of the All-Star break, where he threw 6 scoreless frames, gave just 2 hits. I'm with you. I don't understand why the Giants didn't sell. It didn't make a lot of sense. They've been spiraling the wrong way for a while now.
They're blinded by last year's glory.
Well, yeah, but there's a big difference between a team that won 107 games and a team that's already lost 53.
Yeah, the point is I think they can channel something from last year, which they can. I think it's safe to say, even if you are a Giants fan, last year was a fluke where all the stars aligned, all the veteran players looked like their younger selves, and they've completely regressed to what they should be at like 36, 37 years old.
The Giants are who we thought they were.
Yeah.
And you look, the Dodgers, people always are like, why are they up double digits in the National League West? Well, they beat everybody in the National League West. I mean, come on, they're winning nearly 75% of their last 62 games in the division. The Giants have lost 9 straight division games. I can't put faith in a team that can't compete in their own division. I'm sure even, the Reds have won at least one of their last 9 games against the Central.
Yeah.
And Andrew points out, of course, the Nats defeating the Mets last night was a shocker. Well, I'll tell you what wasn't a shocker, that they didn't score any runs for Jacob deGrom.
Yeah, some things don't change no matter how long he's on the IL. But I actually did a baseball podcast yesterday, and I actually took the Nationals first 5. So that actually worked out pretty well for me. It was a big plus price. But it's a general rule of thumb for me, especially when they're favored. I fade pitchers off the IL.
Yeah.
Like, you can talk about how it's a shocker that the Nats beat the Mets and deGrom. If you laid 3-something with a pitcher who has not pitched in the majors for a year or so, that's on you. Like, there's no circumstance I would ever lay 300 with a pitcher who has no major league starts within the last calendar year. Like, that's just not happening. At least for me.
I mean, he looked good for what he did,
Oh, he looked good, but you didn't know what to expect. I mean, it would turn out to be the Mets bullpen that blew the entire thing. But the point is, deGrom, you assume would pitch well. The Nationals traded Soto. They traded Bell. So you knew they had no weapons. But, I mean, did you really want to lay that big of a price with any uncertainty involving the starting pitcher that you were using? Of course not. So if you want to take the Mets full game, either run line, and you thought that they'd get to the bullpen, I didn't think the Nationals would win the game, but I took first 5 because the Nationals were using a pretty decent opener, at least, based on ERA, and I thought deGrom might struggle. And
you base the ERA on his 3 relief appearances?
yeah, get me through one inning. Get me through one inning, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, it was more just a pure value play. I was not going to lay 300 under any circumstance, and that turned out to work in my favor. But
true enough. And now we can move on to another game featuring 2 teams from the National League that are below 500. Scott, do you know who it is?
wait, you said 2 teams that are below 500?
Yes.
You got the Reds and the Marlins?
We do have the Reds and the Marlins.
Okay.
Let's face it, Mike Minor is terrible.
Yes.
Sadly, Mike Minor is probably the ace of this rotation now that Castillo and Molly are gone.
Might be, after last night, it might be Ashcraft.
Yes, Ashcraft, who, if you ask Steen, said that he had a great name for porn.
He was sick last night. I don't know where that came from, but he was really good.
Well, he was also facing the Marlins.
Oh, I'm aware, but I mean, he went into the 9th. That kind of came out of nowhere.
I mean, Braxton Garrett pitched pretty well, too, to take a loss.
Yeah.
He gave up, 2 in the first, and that was it.
Yeah, pretty much.
He fanned, 11, I think, in 5 2/3. So he blew past his K prop, which was 5.5.
Well, both these teams have AAA lineups at this point, so.
But can you trust Minor?
No.
Can you trust Minor? Yeah, I was going to say, even if he wasn't pitching against Alcantara, could you trust Minor anyway?
No. I guess the only counterpoint you could have is Alcantara gets a bunch of no decisions. So you might be hoping for the Reds to keep the game close. But, yeah, I got to go with the Marlins here. Alcantara got roughed up a bit in his last out against the Mets. The Mets have also seen him 45 times. The Reds
are not the Mets lineup-wise either.
But I'm saying the Mets are at least familiar with him, so you can make some adjustments. The Reds barely see him, and their team's not good anyway. So Alcantara should pitch a gem. I don't mind maybe an outs recorded bet, strikeouts prop, kind of anything pro Alcantara tonight. I kind of like.
Yeah, I was going to put up the outs prop, but his outs prop was for him to go 7 innings was still over 20.5 outs was still minus 155.
And it should be juice because you're assuming he's going 8 or 9, but you can't really bet that. So
right. And to your point, Alcantara has pitched against the Reds 5 times in his career, 3 starts. He's 1-2 with a 2.86 ERA, while fanning 33 in 22 innings.
Yeah.
And this is a Reds team that just traded Brandon Drury. They traded Tommy Pham.
That's an underrated pickup by the Padres, too. They somehow also snuck in Drury into their lineup.
So who does that leave for the Reds besides Joey Votto?
You bring back Aquino again. You hope he somehow hits a home run every now and then.
Yes, Aristides Aquino.
Just say you don't have many options. I'm trying to remember. Stevenson's still on the IL, right?
I believe so.
And he was a decent hitter, but yeah, they don't have anybody.
So they got India and Senzel?
Yep.
They got anybody? I saw they have Albert Omar Jr. playing yesterday.
Yep.
I mean,
forgot about that guy.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think who else the Reds have.
He has a World Series ring, right? With you?
Yes, he does. Yep.
That's what I thought. He was like a pinch runner,
yeah, he was a pinch runner in Game 7. We tagged up on that fly ball, and then came around to score. Mm. Oh, I guess they still have Mike Moustakas if you count his 205 average as being a threat.
Can we rewind 5 years or no? But you
got
Votto. I got to give Votto. I mean, his numbers are awful, but I mean, he finds a way on base all the time.
True. So, I mean, whatever. He draws a fair amount of walks, but other than that...
he walks, but nobody drives him in, so it doesn't matter.
So, there you go. We're gonna roll with the... and there you go. Scott Andrews said, another live example of you going against a pitcher coming off the IL is Rich Hill. He's pitching for Boston.
It's within reason. I know if you faded... I think it was Matt Manning, yesterday. The first 5 got there. Then the Twins bullpen blew it, but Archer outpitched Manning, so he didn't look sharp either.
Archer never looked sharp.
No, but I'm saying the fact that's how bad Manning was. He looked okay for a guy making his first start since April. But the point is, you look at the lines, and it looks like Vegas or the odds makers just assume blindly this pitcher is going to look like he did before he came off the IL. And it's like, why are you assuming that? He had a couple tune-up starts in like Double-A, and you think he's going to come out and go like 6 innings, 3 runs? Like, no, of course not. It wouldn't surprise me if he struggles, and it's been a pretty profitable fade, in my opinion. If I just based on selective recall from the last couple of years, if you blindly fade pitchers off the IL making their first appearance, it tends to go pretty well for you.
Sadly, I actually took Manning yesterday because I had no faith in Archer.
I liked the price for Manning, but
I liked the run line price too because it was plus 260.
And it looked like it was in good shape. Tigers were hanging in there, and then they ended up winning the game. So,
oh no, that's what I mean. I like the Detroit run line price.
Yeah,
at -1.5, it was plus 260.
Yeah,
and I just can't trust Archer. He still has yet to get out of the 6th or get an out in the 6th inning all season. He did make it out of the 5th for the 4th straight start. I don't know how that guy has a job. I guess that's why they got Mahle, because maybe that'll bump him out of the rotation.
It's either him or Gibson, because Gibson has not been good either. But I actually noticed we do have a surprise guest in the waiting room. We're going to let him in. How you doing?
They'll let any hobo in, won't they?
I lost my first bet. It was 50-50 whether you were going to let me in or not. So what's going on?
I don't have anything against you, so why not? How you doing?
I'm doing well. Chris invited me to the show today, and I couldn't resist.
He actually gave up watching Court TV for a few minutes.
No, it's they're on break. I told you I was gonna try to fit it in with the break, and they ran long today. So, yeah, I'm totally geeked on this trial, man. I'm the first to admit it. I'm totally geeked on all like the procedural stuff, and it's fascinating. It's fascinating. So.
Well, Scott, we were just talking about Alcantara going against the Reds. What do you think of Mike Minor?
I'm surprised he's not pitching for the Royals with the quality of pitcher that he is right now. I took it as my play of the day, and it was tough to find an angle here because with the total of 7 and Miami a -200 favorite, you're looking at 2.5 for a team total for the Reds, and I didn't like that. I gambled on Miami actually scoring runs against Minor. That's how little I think of Minor. I took him on the run line, so you're getting $1.05 value when I took it anyway, 200 to 105. So where are you guys at on this one?
On the same boat.
Yeah, it's actually plus 110 now on the run line.
Okay,
can you believe that somebody actually bet the Reds to bump it up?
Well, I mean, the thing is, Miami doesn't score. That's the problem with backing this team. It is so frustrating. Both of us, me and you, me and Scott, we watched this team the whole season long. They've got fantastic pitching out of 3/5 of their rotation. Has been pretty good, and they can't score any runs. They're back to their old backs. They're backsliding back to their old ways where they just can't put any runs on the board. So, heaven help us tonight on the run line.
But the fun part is that Cincinnati doesn't score on the road. They're 27th in runs per game on the road.
That's right.
So.
That's right. And and most of those games haven't come against Alcantara. In fact, probably none of them have. So
you are correct.
I'm looking at 3-1. I think it's a good correlated in-game or same-game parlay. I think if you're playing the Marlins, I think you have to play the under. The Marlins aren't going to win a shootout.
Yeah, because I think both games in this series were low scoring. It was 2-1 yesterday, and what was the first game? Wasn't that like 3-1 or something?
3-1, 3. Both teams they have no talent in the lineup.
No.
Yeah, 3-1 and 2-1 the first two games of the series.
The trade deadline, I know you guys are talking a lot about the trade deadline, and that is such a great time if you're one of the haves. I remember when the Royals picked up Zobrist and they picked up Johnny Cueto, and everybody's excited. But to be on the other side is you just see your roster just depleted. You're like, well, what the hell are we going to do now? That's a very depressing feeling,
I'm assuming you're saying that because Merrifield was traded.
Well, yeah, I look at the Royals. I look at the Reds. I look at the Nationals. All the bottom feeders. They got a lot worse. I think Merrifield. He should have gone 2 years ago. The Royals are terrible at what New England does the best, and that is trading players at the peak, at the exact right time. You need to get rid of them to get maximum value in return. The Royals like to go 2 or 3 years past that. So I do give them props for trading Benintendi. I kind of thought there might be a chance they try to keep him and sign him. He's only, 28, right?
Yeah, he's relatively young.
So I thought maybe if the Royals had any hopes for the future, the next 2 or 3 years, that they might try to hang on to him. But apparently, we're just burning it all down again. So, good time.
And speaking of feeling bad, people in Atlanta have to feel bad because they went to the 8th, leading 1-0, and of course, let's blow another lead for Charlie Morton. The bullpen comes in and gives up 3 in the 8th. The Phillies now lead 3-1, going to the bottom of the 8th.
And it's all because they traded Will Smith.
Well, yeah, and they got rid of Will Smith. I thought that was what they get for Smith again. What was the deal? Smith for who?
Odorizzi.
Jesus. Yeah, if I'm Atlanta, I'm making my bullpen better. I'm not worried about my starting rotation, especially in a short series. I think
aren't they supposed to get Soroka back?
Allegedly, but Soroka's been a huge question mark for several years because just as soon as it seems like he's coming back, he gets injured again. And you go through the whole thing all over again. So I'm hoping Soroka comes back. It's sad what happened to him because he was a great rookie pitcher. But I don't know how much stock you can actually put in with regard to faith around him.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I know you guys were talking a little bit about that Mets game yesterday, laying 300 on DeGrom. That's insanity. That is just.
And it kept going up after the trade because I think it got up to. I think it was when we went off, it was at like minus 355.
Like, I know the Nationals don't have any talent, but once again, he hasn't pitched in like a year against major league hitting. I'm not laying 300 in any circumstance.
Can't do it. I'm not. Yeah, I don't think there's ever a time I'm going to lay 300 on a baseball game.
I think I would if it was actually like a reliable pitcher who has been pitching well recently. But after that big of a layoff, I'm not laying 200 with anybody.
Yeah, absolutely not. I wanted to say hi to some people in the comment section here. JC Stone, Lex Steele, James S. Yo, to James S. What's up, buddy? JC wants to know, when is your big football project announcement? Soon. It's going to. We're shooting for a premiere of the first Thursday game, which is September the 8th. I think we're going to start pimping it pretty hard here within the next week or so.
I heard that pimping ain't easy. So I'm rooting for you.
It's hard out here for Pimp, man.
That's what the Godfather said, man.
We're having a lot of fun with it. We've kind of developed a format, and now we're just in a massive writing phase where that's what I'm going to be doing about 12 hours a day for the next week, because we're going to try to write as much stuff as we can to do throughout the season, because it's such a quick turnaround. We've got to go from Sunday night to filming on Tuesday and have a full show ready to go. So we're going to try to plug as many things in. It's going to be fun. I think it's going to be something that people like. Fingers crossed. So yeah, thanks for the chance to plug. How you guys been running? Chris, how your premiums been running? You been making people money?
I had a couple yesterday. My 6-teamer yesterday came up short because of Oakland of all teams. I figured they could have beaten Jose Suarez.
Right.
But the weird thing was that all the other teams I had in there were underdogs, because I had Baltimore, I had Detroit. But
yeah. Hey, give this guy some love. If you're, first of all, I don't know how hard you guys hit this, but check out the Winners and Whiners website under the experts tab. It has everybody's record, lifetime. Well, at least since we started, keeping tabs here with the system, lifetime, last 30 days, last week. It has, who's hot, who isn't. Get over there. If you are somebody that does buy picks, you could do a lot worse than checking out the experts. And I'm saying that, and not because I'm one of them. I've been pretty average for the last week or so, but I know there's some guys that have been hot, and I know Chris is almost always atop the leaderboard. So get your ass over there if you want to hit some parlays, have some fun, root for multiple games. Check out Chris's stuff. So, there now, I get my free lunch, Chris. You got that? You got that Red Lobster coupon in the mail, buddy?
Yeah, Rachel's printing it out right now.
UTSA versus Houston.
James is already jumping into college football. Yesterday he was asking about Tennessee and Ball State.
I actually do want to kind of pivot since we brought up college football. I know that Chris and I went through a couple of conferences on this show about a week or two ago.
Right.
At what point do you, Scott, do your official college football deep dive where you actually start either looking at outrights, conferences, or even just week 0 matchups?
Middle of July, early to middle July. When I started.
It means you already started. There you go.
Yep. And I haven't done complete disclosure, I haven't done as much as I usually do this season because my duties.
Yeah, you're writing and stuff.
So,
whatever. You're busy.
But yeah, I'm starting to take a look at it now. I'm not going to lie. I have not gone to CUSA yet. I have not got the UTSA versus Houston. So I'm going to defer. Have you guys taken a look at that conference? You know who's back, who's not, where we're at on everybody?
I was going to say that Chris and I did all the Power 5 conferences. We were going to take a break for a couple weeks and then go back to the Group of 5. So we are going to cover the CUSA at some point.
I'm pretty sure UTSA has almost everybody back from last year's team.
They were good last year.
Yeah,
they were very good last year.
Frank Harris. The only guy I think that's not back is Sincere McCormick.
Yeah, because he ditched the bowl game for draft purposes, so he's not back. But I think everyone else, for the most part, is back.
Killer defense, right? Didn't the Roadrunners have like a very good defense?
It was until the game against Western Kentucky in the bowl game. But
I mean, Western Kentucky was a whole different ball of wax.
No, that's what I was going to say. So you had that, but Houston was very solid last year, and I personally think it was a bit fluky. But that's just me.
Well,
so you don't have faith in Clayton Tune and company?
I'm just not used to the coaching staff actually having a good defense. I don't think Houston has had a good defense in like a decade, and they were randomly good last year. I'll believe it when I see it if they're able to do it again.
John C. wants to know if IUPUI is going to have a team this year. Yeah, but Rochelle's going to be the starting point guard. So it is good news and bad news. That's we're going to have to figure it out, boys. We've had one go-to team since we've been on the air, Rochelle. And last year, of course, it was Presbyterian. That's not going to be the case this year.
R.I.P.
As Kelly has moved on, but we've got to come up with that under the radar angle that nobody else is playing that you and I have become known for. So
are you blindly taking overs in like Hawaii games because they got of course the great quarterback as their new head coach?
Who'd they bring in?
Timmy Chang is their coach.
And Timmy Chang to be the head coach now.
Air it out. They're going to be terrible, but you're going to see a lot of no huddle. Tell that much. Man,
they are the perfect over team because they don't play good defense. They go fast, and now they've got Timmy Chang, who is the quintessential system quarterback. I don't know.
Kind of like when Mike Leach was in Pullman at Washington State.
Yeah, very very similar.
Nothing's going to compare to Presbyterian. That's an all-time first ballot gambling Hall of Famer. But if you were trying, it was a team that was under the radar. So it was even when the stream got just incredible, nobody was paying attention to it. I still think we were the only people talking about it.
I agree. I totally agree.
Well, no, they talked about it a lot here because Presbyterian's like 20 minutes from my house.
For totals?
Oh yeah.
I don't think they were betting totals for Presbyterian games.
And guys, I don't want to jam you up here. I just wanted to pop in and say hi. I know people are starting to ask for your picks and everything. I don't want to make your show run long, but I did want to say hello, RIP to the Royals, to Witt, to Benintendi. Who else they get? They covered to somebody else too.
They traded Cam Gallagher.
Cam Gallagher, that's right. That did become official. They were rumored. Well, I thought that was a weird deal. We need a backup catcher. Oh, sure, okay. I'm fine with that. With Melendez there, if you can get 2 bags of balls for Cam Gallagher, knock yourself out. That's fantastic. So
surprised Hunter Dozier's still there, but I guess
he's got kind of an albatross of a contract.
Yeah.
So it's not massive, but it's more than he's worth. So I could see he might have been a little untouchable. But anyway, you guys are doing a great job, and I appreciate it. I do miss doing both the shows. I miss talking to people in real time in the comment section. So do make sure that you guys check out my daily stuff. I'm still doing my daily picks. We did our first King of the Cappers last week, where I brought on the best capper of the week to go head-to-head against me. And he took me down. We had to be an underdog pick. I had Tampa Bay, and he had the Reds for the Monday game, or for the Tuesday game. So Tampa Bay got a little of that Miami disease. They can't score any runs.
So does he host the show now? Did he take the belt from you?
Yes, that's right. He's officially the host of the show until I can take it back from him. So no, he's just he goes from capper of the week to king of all cappers.
Okay.
So pretty impressive title.
It wasn't Bronco, was it?
It was not. It was not Bronco. It was C-Dub.
Nice.
Who's been on forever, putting in great plays every day. Like, we'll put in tons of soccer action. So honestly, I had a lot of guys I would have liked to seen, but he was certainly right near the top of the list. So it was cool. It was a lot of fun. So anyway, hey, you guys have a great day. Keep doing the Lord's work out there, boys.
Well, don't hesitate to stop by anytime.
I won't. I'm usually not dressed for it. So today I got up, I actually got dressed and had a little bite to eat and said, you know what, I'll pop in because
So you were trying to be like Peter on Office Space.
which one was Peter? Was
Peter's the main character.
main character? I forget his name was Peter. That just doesn't seem to fit. But yeah, I wouldn't say I've been missing it. I wouldn't say I've been missing work, but I'd say that we talked about that movie before. It's not a great movie, but it's got like 4 or 5 really quotable, memorable lines. That just stick
I
with.
actually just like that movie.
Do you? Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those that I get your point. It's not like the most whatever, but I
call it
I
a
don't know. It makes me
6.5.
laugh.
I call it a 6.5.
Okay.
It's an above average movie, but it's got some stellar lines. So
I think it's a funnier Office comedy than The Office.
never got into The Office. I tried to watch a couple episodes, just not. The rhythm doesn't do it for me.
I watched it, thought it was okay,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, Scott. So if you could come in tomorrow, that would be great.
Oh yeah. The what I can't.
Scott, how are those TPS reports coming along?
I'm behind in
You're
the,
behind?
the
Okay.
shocking development. I'm behind. So
Yeah, we got. There's a new cover sheet for those. I don't know
That's
if you got the memo.
what the fuck is it? What's his name? He played Mike Brady and he's done a bunch of stuff. What the hell is it?
In the movie, it was Lumberg. It's Gary Cole.
Gary
He
Cole.
was also in. He played Ricky Bobby's father.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's
And he
right.
was in Dodgeball on the Ocho.
Not to be confused with the Gary Cole who was on. Anybody know? Chris, you're a TV geek. You know who Gary Cole?
You're not
was?
gonna say Silver Spoons or something. Are you?
No, before that it was
I only know Gary Coleman.
the Mod Squad.
Gary Cole, man.
Gary,
That's why it's the Gary Cole boy.
Yeah.
when I return, I should be a cabin man. Yeah, Gary Cole was the guy that played the white guy. There was because that was their tagline. It was 1 white, 1 black, 1 blonde. The Mod Squad, and he was the white guy. That
Okay.
was also Gary Cole. So, hey, that's the little nugget I'm going to share with you guys today. Go back to doing your thing. Great to see you guys. Great to see everybody in the comment section. And yeah, James says if you're not first, you're last. That's right, baby. You guys have a great day. I talk to you guys every day in text anyway, so we'll be in touch.
Yep. Sounds good.
All right.
Later on, guys.
Scott Speed, everybody.
Okay. So I believe we're 1 game into the parlay, and we're about 47 minutes in. So let's roll.
Yeah, we got the Cardinals over the Cubs. I just don't trust that lineup. We saw them get blanked yesterday. We've talked about Justin Steele on the road before. I know he's pitched better of late, but Nicholas is probably a better pitcher than Steele at this point, and the Cardinals actually have something to play for.
I'm surprised the Cubs didn't trade him.
Yeah, I was a little surprised that they didn't move. I know they moved Givens and Robertson, and
That's what I'm saying. If you're going to trade some bullpen pieces, I mean, you might as well trade a starter or two while you're at it. But
true. And this is the one that is probably going to fly in the face of the fading guys off the IL because Freddie Peralta is coming off the shelf to pitch today against Pittsburgh. I don't think he's going to necessarily go deep. I just think that Milwaukee's bullpen can hopefully pick up the slack. Brent Suter and those guys. And I just don't trust Pittsburgh. They were fortunate yesterday that Corbin Burns couldn't hit the strike zone if his life depended on it.
Mm.
I don't know if you saw any of that game or not.
he had 5 walks, I think.
Yeah, 103 pitches, 53 strikes. Very unBurns like. Plus, he plugged 2 guys back to back.
Yeah.
I just think Milwaukee will bounce back here. The Dodgers we talked about and the Marlins we talked about. So I don't think we need to go any further into detail about why the Giants are terrible and why the Reds don't score.
Yeah. I think we're on the same page.
For the show, I'm going to still look for the Cubs and the Cardinals to stay under 8. Look, they scored 6 runs yesterday, and they all came from one team. I don't think we're going to see a whole bunch of offense. Of course, everybody knows Busch Stadium is a bigger stadium than a lot of parks. So, if you're going to homer, it's not going to be one of the cheap ones like where Chris Woodward says Yankee Stadium is a little league park.
Then you have Yankee Stadium. You have Minute Maid down the left field line.
True. There's a few others like that, Fenway with the Green Monster out there. You get a lot of things that could otherwise be outs. I'm going to take the Angels over the A's just because Ohtani's pitching, and I don't think Oakland's going to do much against him. has also kept me away from taking some of the other ridiculous lines, like Snell is going at -3 something against Cool. Scott, you saw the Liberty and the Sparks yesterday.
Well, I was going to say, as of right now, I see the 4 for the show slide up. Can you just move it one over?
No, the 4 for the show one is up. That's what we're talking about.
No, I know. I'm saying I only see the actual preview page for it. I don't see the picks.
Oh, see, then yours didn't update. See, because
I guess mine
that?
froze. Okay.
Did it
Whatever.
update now?
I can't see it, so I guess I'm going blind. All right. Cool.
I didn't know it didn't update. You saw the Liberty and the Sparks yesterday. Do you think the Sparks can do anything different than get blown out by 29 points?
I was gonna say, wait, let me try something real quick.
Sure.
So loading? I don't know why we're having some whatever.
Now it says shot in the dark on my side.
So okay. It still says shot in the dark though. Okay, there it is. That's the big parlay. Okay, here you go.
Yeah.
I know I wait to reset that for a second. Cool.
Better than Christine was in there, so I might have froze it up.
Maybe. I don't know.
What do you make of the Liberty and the Sparks?
I made a lot of money on the Liberty yesterday. I took a 2-pick parlay in WNBA today. I have the Liberty money line and the Dream money line. I got that at like -125. I think it's at 155 now. The Sparks quit on the season. I mean, it's the same exact matchup as yesterday, which could be concerning for some people. But the Sparks really look like a team that has no interest in playing out the string. The Liberty are right now in possession of the final playoff spot. They're a young team. They technically made the playoffs last year. They seem like they're playing good basketball at the right time. I think they should kill the Sparks again tonight.
I mean, is really anybody but Indiana out of the playoff picture at this point? I mean, the Sparks.
No, everyone's still alive except for Indiana.
I was gonna say, because you got all these teams that are 12 and 18, and then Minnesota's 12 and 19.
Yeah, Indiana's
So,
the only team that's been eliminated.
Indiana's just been terrible.
They're the worst team, arguably, of all time. So,
I mean, everybody had hopes for them when they started off actually winning games, but
yeah.
And I'm going to stick with Minor going under 17 and a half outs. I don't see him going 6 innings even against the Marlins.
Well, if he gets into any type of trouble in a 0-0 or 1-0 game, the Reds will be quick to pull him because they're against Alcantara and they need to make sure they don't give up any runs.
Right.
So,
I mean, can you see him going 6?
hypothetically, I could if everything works out, but most likely no. Especially at plus money. I think that's just a good deal.
Yeah, that was because it was either that or Alcantara. Like we said, Alcantara at -155 wasn't something you could really chase.
But I can see it, but a plus money for just Minor to keep a high pitch count, I think is realistic. So
True.
I don't mind that play at all.
And then we go to shot in the dark. Paul Goldschmidt over 1.5 total bases. Let's face it, the guy's leading the MVP race for a reason, right? Here's one that we don't usually talk about. Jurickson Profar, Scott, from San Diego, had 6 hits in the doubleheader yesterday. He's had at least 2 total bases in 7 of his last 8 games. And you can get him at plus money. Plus, he's facing Cool.
It's good value. I mean, he's killed the Rockies.
Yeah, I was surprised that he actually had that good of numbers against him because, you don't necessarily think about him when you're talking about that lineup.
Yeah.
Especially now that they bolstered that lineup.
Profar did me a solid a couple months ago. He had a home run when I did team total over. So he's on my good graces.
There you go. Freeman over 1.5 total bases at plus money. I don't understand it. I know that they're playing the Giants. I know they're playing at Oracle Park, but let's face it, Cobb's not good. And the Giants bullpen has been terrible.
Yeah. And Freeman's a top 4 MVP candidate. So you're getting a great player, obviously.
Right. Lindor, he's homered in 3 straight games, something like that. I'll take him against Anibal Sanchez at plus money.
By the way, I think the Mets win today by like 5 runs. I think they kill the Nationals today.
You would hope so because yesterday had to be disappointing.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's meet the new boss, same as the old boss because DeGrom pitched and they didn't score for him.
Yeah.
Rowdy Tellez, this was because of the fact that I'm like, oh, crap, I have to fill out these spots, and there's not a whole lot of games to work with. But, Tellez has been pretty good. He's got some pop in the bat, got 21 homers this season, and he's facing Pittsburgh. And it's Tyler Beede, who I didn't even realize was pitching for Pittsburgh because all I remembered was that the Giants canned him, and all of a sudden, apparently, he showed up there. Anything good you want to say about Tyler Beatty?
He's in the major leagues.
There you go.
So he has a pretty decent career. He has a pretty decent job. I don't know how long he's going to keep it, but he's got a pretty decent job.
Yeah, it's supposed to be this is going to be his first start of the year. He's made 23 relief appearances.
Means he's not going to go any length.
Yep. Means it screams, 2, maybe 3 at most.
Yeah, give or take.
And then you got to deal with the rest of the bullpen.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the Dodgers over 4.5 runs. Why
Giants
not?
can't pitch.
Yeah, they scored 9 yesterday when they had the first game, 8.
Yeah.
And you're giving it to me at plus money, so anything higher than 5, is going to be even better. This one was the real reach. Garcia over 1.5 total bases for the Marlins, but he's hitting, I think, about 290 in his last 10 games. He's got 11 hits.
He's against the lefty.
Yeah, and it's minor.
Yeah.
So then for the strikeout props, I'm going to go with Urias over 6.5 against the Giants. Let's face it, like you said, they should have punted when they had the chance. Ohtani, what's the highest number that you would dance away from with Ohtani against the A's, Scott?
I would take 10 plus. If he ends up with 11 or 12, it would really not surprise me because you're assuming Ohtani, win or lose, will go at least 7?
Yeah, that would be my guess.
So,
and there's Alcantara at over 7.5 strikeouts at plus money. And everybody's talking about how the Reds aren't necessarily strikeout prone, but like we said, this is the AAA version of the Reds and Joey Votto.
It's plus 130.
I know.
Like with Alcantara, like that. Yeah, even if they're not a strikeout team, most of the time, if ever, do they ever face the best pitcher in the National League right now? I know DeGrom's back, but you know what I mean for the sake of this season. So.
But yeah, and like I said, he's faced the Reds 5 times, and he struck out 33 guys in 22 innings, and that was back when, the
Reds weren't fully tanking.
Yeah, to one point you can say, well, the Reds had Eugenio Suarez who strikes out at will, but they also had guys like Winker and Castellanos was there, and all these other guys, so they weren't exactly pushovers.
They have a AAA lineup, and they're facing off against the NL Cy Young favorite. So
yeah, and you got Aquino in there, and we know how much he's a whiff.
There's a chance Alcantara pitches a complete game tonight.
It'd be his third of the year, I think.
I was going to say, if you're working 9 innings or 8 innings, and you need to strike out per inning in today's baseball, I got to like your chances at plus 130.
Yeah, he's struck out at least 4 times. He struck out 8 in 2 other starts. And you're facing a Reds team that's, terrible.
Pretty much.
Some of his worst strikeout performances were against the Mets, but like you said,
they've seen him
57 times. Yeah. So he struck out 14 against the Braves. He struck out 12 against the Phillies. He struck out 10 Angels, 10 Pirates. I'd probably put the Reds on the line with the Pirates lineup. So I don't see how, unless they're going up there first pitch hacking and bouncing to third, I don't see how Alcantara doesn't get near this number or go over it.
Yeah, I think he should go over.
So there you go. Anything you want to add, Scott, before we get out of here?
Not really. You have anything else you want to say?
Just that the Yankees haven't scored any more runs. It's still 6-1.
Means they haven't allowed any runs since the first inning. So I'm
a
glass half full kind of guy.
Yeah, somebody needs to tell Cole that when the game starts at 105, it means it starts at 105.
Yeah, but I guess he didn't get the memo. Maybe the national anthem ran long and it messed up his psyche. But either way, that was a joke. We'll be back again tomorrow. Looking forward to it. And good luck to all of you and all your bets. Bye, everyone.